The film begins outside an old, deserted coal mine where a young boy named Aiden is playing by himself. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise that startles him. Panicked, he rushes to his father Frank Weaver's car just as Frank arrives, toolbox in hand. Frank calms him down, assuring him the noises are nothing to worry about. He instructs Aiden to stay put in the car and not move until he returns, then ventures inside the mine. Within the mine, Frank and a colleague operate a small, improvised workshop where they manufacture illegal items. While working, they pick up on eerie, muffled sounds coming from the tunnels. As they attempt to flee, a terrifying creature with razor-sharp claws and antler-like horns on its head ambushes them with brutal force. The timeline then skips ahead 3 weeks. We meet Julia Meadows, a schoolteacher who appears troubled as she wrestles with dark thoughts in the school restroom. She gathers herself and returns to her classroom to deliver a lesson on how stories serve as vessels for passing knowledge and culture between generations. After class, a boy named Lucas is subjected to bullying by some classmates who shove a creepy doll with a painted face into his face and mock him. Lucas walks home alone, burdened and downcast. Along the way, he spots a small skunk, kills it with a rock, and takes it home. When Lucas reaches his house, he stands before a heavily locked door secured with 2 massive padlocks. He carefully listens to ensure no one is nearby before unlocking and entering. Meanwhile, Julia visits a small grocery store, tempted by the liquor aisle but ultimately resisting the urge and heading home. There, a radio broadcast announces a local government plan to reopen several old coal mines. Julia's attention drifts to the family's ancient piano, stirring painful memories of her abusive father. Suddenly, her brother Paul, the local sheriff, arrives. They discuss her day, and noticing her gaze fixed on the piano, he offers to remove it, but she declines. After he leaves, Julia quietly takes down some photographs of their father from the wall and heads out. Back at Lucas's place, he gazes at family photos before furiously tearing the head off the doll that the bullies had left in his bag. Footsteps approach behind the locked door, followed by a low, unsettling voice calling his name and loud banging as something inside struggles to break free. The next day at school, Julia asks Lucas to share a story he's been working on. Hesitant, he opens a notebook filled with dark sketches and recounts a somber tale about 3 bears living together, the eldest growing sick, irritable, and arrogant from hunger, yet they remain united. The grim tone silences the entire class. Later, one of the bullies finds dog feces in his bag. Seeing Lucas watching from afar, he attacks, trying to shove it in Lucas's face. Lucas is injured and taken to the nurse's office, where Julia's concern deepens. She searches for his home phone number but inside his house, 2 black eyes peer menacingly through the keyhole of the locked door. Leaving school, Julia spots Lucas walking alone and decides to follow him. She finds him standing sadly outside an ice cream shop, watching others enjoy treats. She invites him inside, gradually earning his trust. Lucas reveals his mother has passed away and his brother dropped out of school to care for their father. When asked about his father's occupation, Lucas abruptly insists he must leave and asks her not to follow him again. Later, Lucas notices birds circling overhead. Investigating, he discovers a dead animal and takes it home to feed his family. Julia decides to visit Lucas's home, which appears abandoned and run down. She knocks but finds the door slightly open. Peeking inside, she hears fierce banging and growling from within, prompting her to quickly retreat to her car and drive away. At home, Julia pieces together torn drawings depicting a man trapped inside a monstrous figure. Her brother Paul arrives unexpectedly, unsettling her. He questions the drawings and critiques her work, expressing regret over their troubled past. Julia apologizes for having run away in childhood, leaving him to endure their father's abuse alone. That night, Lucas butchers meat from the animal he found and takes it upstairs. In the pitch-black room illuminated only by a flashlight, he sets the tray down. Suddenly, Frank lunges at the food with animalistic ferocity. Dirty and disheveled, he yells at Lucas to leave. From the shadows, Aiden appears, quieter and gentler than Frank, yet filthy and neglected. He eats, but Frank's shouting frightens Lucas away. Afterwards, Aiden fixes one of the locks and secures the door again. Later, Julia plays the piano but is overwhelmed by memories of her father's abuse. Paul arrives suddenly, startling her again. He attempts to reconcile and when Julia inquires about Frank,
Paul reveals he has arrested Frank multiple times for various offenses. Julia shares Lucas's drawings. Paul discloses that Frank struggles with drug addiction. Julia admits to visiting Frank's home, and Paul reprimands her for taking such a reckless risk. The next day, Lucas sets a small trap for animals but senses someone nearby, a hunter frozen in shock, staring at a half-burned human corpse. Both the hunter and Lucas leave the scene. At school, Julia searches through Lucas's desk, finding books on animal traps, a tome titled Dangerous Spirits, and his sketchbook. She shares the materials with the principal, pleading for help. The principal promises to look into Frank's situation. Later, Julia observes Paul speaking with the hunter, who explains that the body he discovered was half in the forest and half inside the mine. Meanwhile, Lucas brings candy to Aiden, who suddenly coughs violently and bleeds from his eyes and mouth after eating. At the morgue, the mutilated corpse is identified as Frank's former partner. The coroner states the wounds were inflicted by a human, not an animal, alarming Paul. The principal visits Frank's home. The stench is overwhelming. She hears Aiden crying, finds him filthy and bloodied. Suddenly, Frank attacks her from behind, dragging her down and consuming her slowly before sprouting antlers. Police search the mine later, discovering bags of drugs and strange antlers unlike any the hunter has seen. Paul receives a call about a new missing person case, and leaves abruptly. Lucas walks along train tracks, but is confronted by the school bully. Suddenly, a humanoid creature with antlers appears, attacking the bully. Lucas escapes home, notices the principal's car, and sees a blood trail leading to a broken window. He hides the car and cleans the blood. Paul tells Julia that the principal's husband reported her missing. Julia realizes she sent the principal into danger. Police visit Frank's home, but find no answer. Julia returns later to find the principal's car covered. Authorities discover the principal's half-eaten body in the attic, alongside another burnt, cocoon-like corpse. Julia takes Lucas to the hospital, where doctors observe signs of abuse and possible psychological trauma. She decides to adopt him. In a flashback, Lucas recalls when Frank returned from the mine, gradually transforming and locking himself away, warning his children never to open the door no matter what. Days later, Aiden falls ill, and Frank drags him inside the locked room. Julia and Paul visit the hunter, showing him Lucas's drawings and evidence. The hunter explains the creature is the Wendigo, a mythical Native American spirit that eternally craves human flesh. The only way to kill it is to stop its heart while it's weak and starving, but the spirit never truly dies, it only seeks a new body to possess. Soon, police discover the bully's half-eaten body on the train tracks. Panic spreads. Paul still doubts the supernatural explanation, frustrating Julia. At home, Lucas tells Julia that his father isn't dead, he's with Aiden, and wants Lucas to join them in the mine. He reveals drawings of the creature. Outside, a deputy investigates noises in a barn. Inside, he finds Aiden trapped in a crate, but is attacked and killed by the Wendigo, which then assaults Paul, seriously injuring him before fleeing. Julia tends to Paul's wounds, who informs her the Wendigo has taken Lucas into the mine. She enters the dark mine alone, armed with a flashlight and gun, calling for Lucas. She finds him but then sees the Wendigo devouring a bear, wearing Frank's skin like a mask. Terrified, she fires at it, but the creature knocks her down. She ignites a flare, temporarily stunning it, then stabs it repeatedly with an iron rod. Lucas stabs it from behind, allowing Julia to rip its heart out. Suddenly, they hear Aiden scream, he's starting to transform. Julia moves to end his suffering, but Lucas begs her not to. She convinces him there's no hope, embraces him, and kills Aiden. The following day by a lake, Julia and Paul discuss Lucas's future. Paul warns Julia that one day she may have to kill something she loves if the curse continues. She holds Lucas close and walks away, but suddenly Paul coughs, revealing he's become the Wendigo's next host.